So I'm going to make this the last session on the kind of derelict theme. Perhaps still stick with textures. The next little project is flowers. So if anybody wants to do something on a flower theme, that'll be the next one coming up. Obviously, if you're still working on whatever you're working on, that's fine. Keep going with that. So we've got 2 more weeks, I think, of April. Then I've got a 1-week break. So this was, I thought I'd use this as my demo piece, and it's all obviously already quite a lot set out. This was a painting I started these wrecks, derelict kind of boats. This was quite a few years ago, and it's over in Suffolk at Pinmill. And we'd already spent a day painting, and just towards the end of the day, we went over and had a look at these. But it was very quickly kind of sketched in, perhaps about an hour, and then the light changed and it all went dark and it couldn't really carry on. So I sort of got almost like an underpainting on. So I thought it might be quite a good one to experiment with. And so this little bit here is what I did on Tuesday with my Tuesday classes as the demo. I thought I'd just do a little bit more to work my way across. And I've just been tweaking with the colours and the textures, and really pretty much using palette knives or other things other than brushes. So it's been quite a nice experiment to try, developing the painting. And actually everything here was all painted with brush. Everything there has just been used knives and bits of plastic and things like that. So I'll just do a little bit more. I think really generally it's probably easier to work the background to foreground like you would anyway. So I'll do a little bit more of the pinky colours in the sky. And I don't want them too bright really. That might be a little bit too bright. So just add a little bit of sort of pinky orange. Maybe I've got a little bit of bluey colours from last time there. So I'll try and mix those in a little bit to make a slightly lilac-y colour. Try a little bit of that. Maybe that would be good for about there. But probably need to go a little bit lighter further down. But yeah, it's quite nice to experiment with different ways of putting the paint on. You could put it on really thickly. I quite like to just almost like pop it on and almost like just scrape it on a little bit, or just have this sort of broken texture sometimes. That can be quite nice. I find I need to sort of wipe the knife quite frequently just to tweaking the mix.
Uses a lot of paint.
It does, yeah, it does. If you got, I'm thinking all these old tubes I've got here, a bit hard to dry it out. Maybe you could use up. It does use a lot of paint, yeah. So you wouldn't want to get the most expensive kind of paint. Yeah, it definitely does. I suppose if you like it as a way of working, perhaps just work very small. So that would be these areas. It's gone slightly more orangey. Slightly more orangey than there. But I'm going with a bit more pink. Work that in. And I really like the way you get these different kind of marks that I couldn't achieve with the brush. It just adds a different sort of quality. So I'd be quite tempted to just carry on in this vein. Let that work out. And then with the boats themselves, this feels a bit too dark, really. It's more of a purpley grey. Perhaps some of this warm light is changing the colours. So that might be quite nice to go over with a slightly lighter, and I'll add a little. So I made a lilac. I'm just adding a bit of yellow in, so it's not too strong. Might be quite good, and perhaps just break and this is where you can get some quite nice textures. There's some thicker bits and some bits that almost sort of like broken paintwork. That's quite nice. Maybe scraping bits back. I can just sharpen that edge up with a bit of the pink. Things like the lion, I might go with something yeah, perhaps something like that, just to get that lighter edge in. What colour I've got there? Perhaps a little bit of yellow mixed in. Just grey it down a tiny bit. Again, maybe not make it too solid. I think that's sometimes works better. Just having, you know, some areas just slightly more, yes, slightly lighter than others. So it's not like one solid line. That can often give it a more interesting feel. So that's using knives. The other sort of implements I've got these little rubber tip things, and they can be quite nice for odd details. So there's a few little lines in there. Just mix a darker colour together for that. So sort of like, you know, it's got little dots and dashes for those sort of things. And a few up here. And that just breaks up the surface a little bit. There's a little bit of something quite dark in there that I can pop back in the background. So yeah, that can be quite good.
Oh, is that the thing you can use for the pastel as well, for rubbing in pastel?
I think maybe.
Is it
Yeah, I think you can do. Yeah.
Straight across, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These ones are just very cheap ones. I got from Lidl ones.
Oh, right.
But you can get some that are probably a little bit more
Right.
softer or
Is
rubber.
it a flat? It's just a flat top on it.
Yeah, it's just like a flat top, and there's different shaped ones.
Oh, right.
There's a little set here, so if you want
Alright.
to try any of these out,
Yeah.
you're very welcome. I'm not sure quite what the idea of the different shapes are, but so the other thing is things like old plastic cards, they can be quite good. So that, things like these edges here, I've created those, or you could do perhaps some of the, maybe some, let's try a little bit of a dark line in there for the ship lap, just to give a, this I can slightly curve, I'm careful. Actually almost like a rolling motion works quite well like that. Yeah, that's better. Just kind of rolling that. And again, you know, have not too solid, just slightly broken lines. You get a more naturalistic feel. And then I can always scrape bits back if it's too strong. So yeah, they can be quite good. And I've done, there's a few masts in the distance there, so it's a bit more, it's more like printing really. And obviously with these you can cut them up to different shapes and sizes of cards, but there's a few masts of boats there, so you can almost sort of print those on like that. Get a nice sharp look. With these ones, I've tried like a shadow side and a highlight side, and I think that's, you know, will make it look more naturalistic if you can do that. So just lighten that a tiny bit. So yeah, if you want to try to sort them out a little bit. So if you want to have a play with any of these, or try out some textures, it's quite nice if you've got maybe an old painting that's slightly failed, you can just sort of play with over the top. Okay. Yep. If anybody else is interested in the holiday idea, I've got a couple of leaflets now. There's also a bit of a questionnaire for anybody interested in the Italy one. I've got a couple of people in the afternoon class interested in that, so if anybody else is interested, a bit of information there. Okay.